Dave here with Half Dozen Customs on the shop today, and today we are going to be making a buck to make this. This top curve, nice simple bend. We'll just bend it over my workbench here, but this bend here we need to make a buck for. So let's get to it. Okay, so I went and finished this off over on the sander. So we got, everything's nice and even and straight. We'll pull these screws out of here. So now we have our buck. Put a piece of metal between there. We will be putting this in a vise and clamping it with the vise, and I'll use, a couple of these on either side. We'll clamp it down so that nothing moves. Technically, you could put the piece of metal in there, and you could re-screw everything together or nut and bolt it so nothing moves. But then you got holes in there that you need to weld up. It's not a huge deal, but part of the reason that we're remaking this piece is because there's several holes in the old piece that have been welded up, and they didn't really do a great job welding everything up. There's big booger welds on it. The metal's all disformed. So that's the whole reason that we're making these new pieces. The old pieces, they're usable. I could just bondle them, and we could call it a day. But so much of this metal on this truck has been straightened out or replaced. And so we're just going to take this to the next step of, instead of stripping and putting fresh bondo on there, we're just going to make a whole new piece. So I will be clamping this in the vise, and once we get it clamped in the vise, we can just hammer and dolly over what we need, and we can use the same buck for right and left. It just depends on which way you hammer your bend over. So we'll put a piece of metal in here, we'll bend it over, and then we'll mark our boards so that we know to bend the other way the next time, or you can just look at the piece of metal that you just bent and know that you gotta go the opposite direction. So We'll get a couple pieces of metal cut to fit the old panel. This panel I have not stripped yet, but I can see from the back side there are some welds that have been ground down. You can see that it's bent over here, and also not only is it bent, but it's filled with Bondo. It's got cracks in it, a lot of pitting on the back. So, you know, we're just gonna remake a new piece, but I will make a template out of on a new piece of metal. We'll take some measurements and trace this out, and we'll make a nice new fresh piece. Also, this piece that here, this hole here was I don't know if it was original, but it was an old mounting tab. They had it bolted through the frame. There was a rubber bushing between this panel and the frame, and then they had a bolt through it, nut and back on both sides. That just doesn't look the greatest, so that's not what we're gonna do. What I'm gonna end up doing is I will make a little metal box back here that has a nut in it, and then we'll bolt from the inside of the frame into that nut, and then there will be no hole on this side. So that's how we're gonna do it. So yeah, stay tuned, and we're gonna make a couple new pieces here. So I have traced out on a new piece of metal. This is the flange that we got to bend. This is the flange that gets bent over for the top piece. And I took a measurement of the wide end, and I just made it the same width all the way down. So we'll have enough for our bolt hole. It'll be on this side. So yeah, so we're gonna make this new piece. I gotta finish cutting out around this curved area here. We'll snip that off in the shear. So and I think depends on which way I make my beds as to what side it's for. So the buck I made is good for both sides. It just depends on which way I put my beds. So right now I'm trying to make it for the passenger side, because that's the side I'm working on. So got to make sure that we're putting the beds in the correct way, so that it'll work on the passenger side. So let's get to cutting. Safety first. Okay, so we got this part cleaned up, cut out, cleaned up. So now it'll get put between these two pieces of wood. It's gotta go in the vise. And get clamped. Hopefully we can get it in the vise with this extra metal sticking down here. It may not fit in the vise, but let's hope that it does. Okay, I'm gonna check, see if it fits in the vise. We may have a wee bit of an issue with that. stinker situation here. Because I can't have this piece of metal move in. Okay, so this is a piece that we're going to be going off of. Metal's got to go that way. Just double check. Just working it slow back and forth. We should have no problem stretching this out, but if we start to get a high spot where like it wants to fold over, got to make sure that we work that area first. But just go slow, don't try and fold it over all at once. Okay. So we got that all bent up. It's good now. Now the rest of it, I mean, it is super close. But the rest of it we'll finesse it with a hammer and dolly. But we should be good to go to make the rest of the bends on the panel. As long as you do a nice job making the buck, then your panel should come out okay. So let's open it up and see how we did. I think we did pretty good. Now the piece of wood that I used was just a scrap piece of wood that it actually fell off the back of a work truck in front of my house, and I went out there and picked it up. I was like, hey, that's a good piece of wood. But had it been a little bit longer, and I could have made it longer than this panel, we could have, not on this side of course, but on this side and this side and this side, had it been a little bit longer, we could have drilled holes and nutted and bolted it, and it would have done pretty much the same thing as the clamps. I think the clamps worked out just fine. So, but there we go. We got the bend we were looking for. I think it looks good. It's nice and straight. The bend is consistent. Now I'll hammer and dolly. There's a couple of small wrinkles in it. The harder the wood you use, the better. So that it's not denting or smashing when you're hitting it with a hammer. Because if your wood's denting, then you're gonna end up with a dent in your metal. So, don't use soft wood, don't use like particle board. I see a lot of people using MDF, so I guess it, that's okay. I've seen people use it and their panels turn out exactly how they want. So, I guess you could use some MDF, but the harder the wood, the better. And you know, if you wanted it absolutely perfect, if you had the ability to make these bucks out of steel, then you know that you won't have any chance of imperfections anywhere. So, but that's it. The next bend that we got to do is this one, which I don't know if I videoed it the last time because I made the front piece, and what I did was I bent it over my brand new piece of metal here, my steel bar. So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to clamp it and we're going to bend it over that, just to make sure that it matches the front half that I made, so it'll have the same bend in it. So, and we'll be good to go. But it's lunchtime for me. My tummies are grumbling, so I'll be back. Okay, so there we go. We got this guy all bent up, ready to go. This is for the driver's side, but the passenger side, you know, they're pretty darn perfect. So now we just got to get it to mount up. We'll get this clamped up to the truck. I gotta make a couple holes here where it mounts to the fender. We lost this hole, and then I gotta figure out where this hole goes up at the top, which goes back here, which was not in the proper place when I started, so we're gonna get it back in the proper place. So well, let's move on to the truck, or the bed. So I got a vice grip up there. I don't like how it doesn't come to the end of the bed. I didn't catch that before I made this piece, but both pieces, both this side and the passenger side, are like that. So you know, I don't know if the two, because I know the frame sticks out here and then there's a bumper, so I wonder if the two bumper bolts are there. You know, are they accessible? Is that the reason why it's like that? who knows? You know, there's really nothing factory about this bed, so who's to say what's right and who's to say what's wrong? And the other Jeep that I have here like this that does have a factory bed, all that stuff's missing on it. So it's a guessing game, I guess. But it matches what came off there, and it looks way nicer. So it's nice and new, matches the front really well. So I gotta drill a couple of holes. I gotta drill the 2 holes in here. I gotta drill the 2 holes in here, and then there's a hole that goes up into the bottom of the frame here. Once I get those drilled, then I am done with this side of the bed until we get the bed back on the frame. I do have to make some kind of mount that goes on the back here that mounts it to the frame, just to keep it from, you know, shaking or vibrating when the, you know, big bad motor cams. And I gotta do the same thing back here. Over here there's a brace that actually comes out from the frame that this mounts to. That I gotta build something on the bottom that bolts to that. And until we get it back on the frame, I don't know where those are supposed to go, so that'll have to wait. But let's get these holes marked out and drilled, and we'll get that guy bolted back up and on to the next thing. So, alright, let's see if we can mark some holes here. Okay, that's it. She's on there. Okay, like I said, I am done with this bedside now until we get it back on the truck. The only other thing that I know that I got to do over here is on the inside here, I have to put the latch for the tailgate back in. But as of right now, I'm gonna continue around to the other side. We did get the metal cut earlier for the back of the bed between the cab. They have aluminum in there right now. We're gonna replace it with metal and weld it in. So I did get that cut earlier. That's probably gonna be where I'm headed next. And then we'll get started on the other side with the fender and getting that stripped and cleaned and replace whatever metal we need to replace. Same thing I did on this side. I did order some new metal. I'm out. I ran through that whole, I don't know what it was, 8-foot, 10-foot sheet. I mean, I have some little pieces left that will get used, but nothing big enough to even make a second one of these. So, but like I could probably make the new piece for the center above the wheel well. I can get that made. So, yep, that's it for this video. So I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out.
Take it from the top. Go! Take it from the top. Go! Take it from the top. Go! Take it from the top.